What's going on, watch enthusiast family? Today we're going to do a mod on the AE-1200 by Casio. We got some glue gun here. We got a pick to lift up the film. We've got a scalpel to also do that as well. Blower, of course, that's always needed in every kind of mod that we do. We got some hand cots, some glue if we're going to need it. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes that polarized film sticks to it. Some scissors to cut out the polarized film. And then, of course, I'm not sure if we're going to do red or blue yet on the polarized film, but we've got a nice pad here and a cover. Wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Casio Duro for the theme that we going on here. I've modded this, of course, the bezel to be ceramic, and I have a blue AR coating on that. But anyway, let's get to the mod. Let's unbox this AE-1200. Now, this is going to be for a special, young, inspiring YouTube creator that is a watch enthusiast, and I was inspired by him to make this mod for him. It's kind of a surprise. At this point, I've already shipped out the watch, so it's going to be nice for him to take a look at this video and watch me put it together for him. So first things first, let's remove the band, and we'll get our tool here to do that. Just going to remove the band completely first just to get it out of the way, otherwise it's kind of a little bit in the way there. So let's remove one spring bar here, get in between, and this should be easier, but sometimes it takes a little love. So we remove that one here, and then we've got one more, of course. Remove that, and here we go. Now, to get into this case back, it is screwed down, so we're going to need a screwdriver. Of course, I don't show you all the tools from the beginning, but as we go along, I'll mention it. So we got 4 screws on each corner, so let's just remove those. And I usually untighten them a little bit before completely removing them altogether, just so like that they come off a little bit more even. Same thing when I'm screwing them in. You guys see at the end that I don't tighten them until they're all in. But get our tweezers, of course. That's another tool that I didn't mention that we're going to need. But, we'll make sure we'll mention them as we go along here. So removing the screws. And this one needs a little bit more love. Here you go. Now, I like to keep, obviously, all the screws together. On my pad up forward, there's like little notches to keep them together so you don't mistakenly like knock them over and then lose them. And that could be a kind of a headache. But again, when we're disassembling, it doesn't matter if it's a mechanical or if it's a quartz, but I like to keep all the parts together. You'll see I put that gasket on top of the case back, and then I'm going to arrange them in a row going down as far as like keeping them in that order. So we're using hand removers here just to get this lifted, get this module lifted out of the case, and that should be easy. You got the faceplate in there, so we're going to keep that together. I put that on top because technically that's one of the first things that when we're it's going to be the first thing we remove, but it's going to be the last thing that we put together as we break this down. So metal clips here, they have 2 on 2 sides and then 1 on the other side. So we just have to gently lift that up. You don't want to over torque this because you don't want to bend it, and then it's going to be a hassle trying to reclip it, or it may just never like reclip again. So we're gently just propping that up, and it should come right out. Very easy. First step in breaking down this module. And we lift those clips up, then that back piece comes off. We'll put that to the side. And now we're at the actual chip, the thing that really functions the watch and, helps you without all the functions that go on with the watch. And you want to be gentle with this. Now there's 2 notches that hold that down, if you guys see on the bottom left and on the top right. And you want to pry that up. Oh, I forgot a little spring there. That's important, guys. So when you lift that plastic piece that I did before, there's a little spring attached to it. Don't lose that. It's very easy to forget. I almost forgot it myself, but we move that to the side and secure it. And then we're going to prop this little chip up, and we're going to be very gentle and just work its way up. I'm being very, very fragile and very gentle with the piece here. You want to treat it like pretty much like a watch hands from a mechanical watch. So, don't force that piece. Just let it come up on its own by gently pushing up on each corner. And then when that's out the way, we have a plastic screen and also a white back piece to that. Now, those aren't technically attached, but when you lift up the plastic, it'll come up with it. Just keep in mind that if they do get removed, and then it'll come out as one piece, then You just know that you have to put the plastic piece in and then the white piece on top of it with the two black pads that you see on the back of it. So now we have the little pads on the top and bottom. One is longer than the other. So at the 12 o'clock of the watch, you'll have the longer piece, and at the 6 o'clock, you'll have the shorter piece. And I keep those together how they are just to remind me. But at the end of the day, you'll kind of see. And then we're going to remove the screen itself. Now there's a tab on the bottom here that you want to start off with. You just want to bend that very, very gently and it'll come loose. There's 2 points of tabs on the top and 1 on the bottom. Just be gentle. I've broken that before by just torquing it too much. So, want to give you guys a heads up. Now the screen, the polarized film that we're going to be removing is on the top on the face, and there's like a little bit of a lip that you'll feel. That way you'll know what part is which, and obviously the top part is the film that we want to remove, and right now it's oriented to give a positive display. We're actually going to do a negative display because the AE-1200, 1300, and 1600 all come positive, so the moment you see it as a negative display, whether it has color or not, you'll know that it's modded. And we'll get the Goo Gone here on the edges. I use a Q-tip to apply that. I don't generally go too crazy with the Goo Gone because I'm going to use a surgical scalp to get underneath it very carefully. I've seen people use guitar picks. The Goo Gone came with a kind of like a pick, but it is a little thick to initially get under there. So I use this scalpel just to remove a corner of it, and I usually go across the top, you guys will see, and then I'll flip that scalpel down to the dull side, not the sharp side, and I'll continue to remove it just from the very top here. That Goo Gone's gonna help, release that a little bit. So once I do that, we want to secure the scalpel for sure. Be very careful, guys. If you're going to use a razor or a scalpel, you don't want to slip and push it into your finger, obviously, so just pay mind to that. Now we got the Goo Gone pick here. That's going to help me get underneath it, and we're going to work our way. Do not force it all the way through in one shot. This little screen here is fragile and it can crack if you press too hard down on it when you're trying to hold it, or if you push too hard with this pick. So you see me rocking it back and forth gently just to get some of that off. And there's going to be a lot of glue left over. And that's when the Goo Gone is also going to come into play as far as cleaning off that screen. So getting the polarized film off of there just now, little by little. There we go. That is off. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. So depending on how you orientate that film, you could use it as a positive or negative, but you don't want to reuse it because now there's a whole bunch of loose glue on there. I mean, I guess technically you could clean it off, but it's really not going to be the same to use it again. So we're going to apply Goo Gone now onto the screen itself. There's a lot of residue left over from the glue on that polarized film, and you're going to have to work this for quite some time. I do an edit here so you guys can see, but I really was working on that for maybe about 10 minutes. And then after I get most of it off with the Goo Gone, this is actually alcohol that I'm using to clean off the rest of the smudge. Sometimes it's just like a little bit of smudges on the corners or wherever it was applied more handsomely and just didn't come off with the Goo Gone. But sometimes when you use alcohol, it'll leave like a digital mark on it, and that'll go away once it dries, so don't worry. I would say, apply the alcohol just as much as you need, not too much. I usually just dab it with one side that's wet and then just use the dry side to finish cleaning it off. And again, we're putting this back onto the module secure piece here. Start off with the 12 o'clock and then secure the 6 o'clock. You see me readjusting here. So I'm starting off at the top, then securing that bottom piece. And again, do not pull that bottom piece with a lot of force. It will snap. It has snapped on me, so don't make that mistake that I made. And we're looking pretty good. I'm showing you that there's 2 tabs on the top, 1 tab on the bottom, so 12 and 6 o'clock are indicated for when you have to put it back. And then we're going to flip it over and start to rebuild. So the polarized film, I actually like to install that on the faceplate, not directly on the screen again, because it's just a little bit easier to do that for me. So that's the way that I like to do the mod. So we're going to put those 2 tabs up again. I think this is to help secure the screen in some way, or maybe it's to help, like, with shocks and stuff like that. I'm not entirely sure, but we want to put those back. They're there for a reason at the end of the day. So we put the 12 o'clock. Now we're putting the 6 o'clock back, and those go in there. Just push them in, make sure they're nice and snug. And then we'll get the next piece, which is that plastic with the white piece. Again, they can come separately. It can fall off, but mine stayed on top. Now, there is a right and wrong way of putting this piece in. On the top, there's smaller notches, which I'm pointing to there, and then there's bigger notches on the bottom. So you'll know it's right because it'll sit nice and snug. It won't go in if it's the other way around. So there is a up and down on that. And the same thing with this. This digital chip has two holes on it where it sits correctly and securely. If you have it upside down, they won't line up, so that'll be your indication there. And when you're putting this down, much like when you pull it up, be very gentle, guys. Handle this like you would handle watch hands, if you will. I'm pressing this down just to make sure it's secure, but I'm really using almost no force, as much force as I would use to maybe push a bottle of water over, you know, like really not much at all. And give the blow a little bit on the screen. And we're going to assemble the other half of the module that's going to make contact. Now there's 2 points of contact on there that have to line up. This is the way you know you have it oriented the right way. And before that, we actually have to install that little spring again. So there's an AC hole and there's another hole right next to it. You have to put it in the hole that's next to it, not in the AC hole. So there's a way to make sure that you do that. You know, just put a toothpick through it when you flip it over just to make sure you're following the same hole. And I'm going to show you guys there. The AC hole's on the right, on the top right hole, and the left hole is where we're going to install that spring. So I'm going to show you guys what that looks like now. So we're going to go on the inside of it. I flipped it over, realizing that it is going to be from the inside, otherwise it'll just fall back out. And then we're actually going to install the rest of the module onto that. This way that spring doesn't fall out when I flip it back over. So points of contact there, points of contact there, that's all lined up. So we have the 12 and the 6 o'clock. And we're just going to snap those little things that we did in the beginning. Again, 2 on 2 sides and 1 on 2 sides. And just press it down. Make sure that you hear a little bit of a click and make sure that it's secure so nothing is loose, nothing is vibrating, everything is nice and tight. You get that G-force shock resistance nice and lined up. And then once that's installed, you pretty much have the battery connected. So you should be able to turn on the light, and I think I give that a shot somewhere down the line here. Let's see. I'm fiddling. There we go. Making sure that the battery is making connection. And then you have to do a reset. So with a piece of metal clip, you put it in that AC hole, and then you just touch the edging of that metal clip that you just installed. That'll give it a reset. The bottom will say 12. It's hard to see because we don't have the polarized film showing it, but hey, there you go. I've got the polarized film ready to go. And that's the orientation of the polarized film for negative. That's the orientation for positive. So I'm just checking here, you know, exactly which way I need to cut it out to get the orientation that I want. But really, it's a square, so I could just cut it out in the square size that I need and then orientate it how I want to. Because again, I'm installing this polarized film onto the faceplate itself. So making my marks here of how big I need to cut this out. And now we finally are able to use these scissors, put them to work. You know, now we go to grade school and just cut this out nice and proper. And a little bit here, a little bit there. Very easy, guys. Now, if I was going to do this as like a half negative, half positive, then I would just be lining it up differently from the faceplate and cutting it in 2 pieces. But for today's mod, I want to make it all negative. I think it really gives a nice look to it. That's the positive there. And I think I'm deciding right now. I'm like, should I do this as a... But I'm like, you know what? A negative really makes it, you know, stand out. It really screams modified at that point. So I do go with the negative display. Now we're going to take this faceplate out very carefully. There are parts of this that are very thin and could snap. And as you can see, I could divide that into 2 and really do a positive negative if I want to and then glue it onto there. But for today's sake, we're just going to make sure that this covers up all the holes. So this is where it's important that you measured up and cut correctly, because if that polarized film is not covering all of it, then it's going to come through and it's going to look unfinished and the screen's not going to be active all the way around. So that's what I'm checking there. Everything looks to be good. And then I also check when I flipped it over to make sure that it is in the negative orientation so I don't lose myself. Now, the polarized film has 2 sheets of clear film over it. One side is going to be non-stick, the other side will be stick, and the side that I'm facing down onto the faceplate is going to be sticky. So I actually don't have to use any glue. Sometimes I'll leave the front one on if I really want to glue it because it's going to be like two separate pieces being a positive and negative. But in this case, I made the decision to just pull that off, which is going to get rid of also the Sharpie mark on there as well. So here I go, just looking to peel that off, and I'm double checking now. You know, make sure you check that you're doing this in the right way and making sure that it covers up all the spots. That's what I'm double checking, because that's pretty important, because once you're done and you glue it down, it's not the worst thing in the world. You could easily peel it off, clean off the glue, and do it again, but why do that? Measure twice, cut once type of deal, you know? So removing that film now. I'm using a very small, fine pliers here to do that, just because, you know, you have to get underneath that thin film screen covering it. And then that side is going to be sticky, and we want to make sure we place it down. Now you have to make sure you put the polarized film the right side up. If it is, there is a wrong and right side to face it up. You know, you can orientate it left and right, but if you have it backwards facing up, you're going to get like a rainbow effect instead of getting a nice deep blue. So it is important that you make sure that it is sitting upright, which is what I was checking before. And this side is the non-stick, so we're going to clean that off. I try my best not to touch the other side because it is going to remain sticky. So I also have to keep it protected, because at this point, if any dust lands on it, it's going to be stuck to it, which is why sometimes I'll just leave the front film on and I'll just be able to clean it off at that point. But for one reason or another, I decided not to do that. So it's going to go in the case where it's going to be protected from any dust and everything else. So we're going to just make sure that we clean off all the dust from there to avoid that dust sticking to the screen in the future. So, you know, you see me handling this and making sure that the back is clean again. I'm also going to protect it from getting any dust by putting that glass case around it. So I'm ready to now have the faceplate received into the case. That's nice and easy. It drops down. Just make sure you have it right side up, and that's that. And then we're going to put the module in there, cleaning off the dust, making sure that that's nice and clean. And again, you don't see anything on there because the polarized film is not in front of it just yet. And then putting in the module, very simple, guys. Just, there's tabs on the side that help activate the buttons. Push those in, and don't push it in hard. Let it fall into place first. You'll kind of see it fall, and then it's a little resistant, and I'm like, something doesn't feel right. And I'm gently now just testing it. And then I think I realized that I have to get in another one of those tabs. But before I do, of course, we're going to grease up the gasket. I always do this, regardless of it being a brand new watch or not, because we don't know how long it's been sitting. So we might as well re-grease that and optimize our water resistance. So there is a right side up on this gasket. It has a little tab at the 12 o'clock, which I'm pointing to there. And then there's a little notch where that's cut out too, so you know you're putting it in the right orientation. Make sure to push it down in the little groove so it's nestled there and nice and secure when you're putting the case back on. So we'll work our way around that. Nicely greased. Very nice. And let's see here. Let's get the case back. And now all there is to it is to put the case back on. Again, there's a right side up of that. Very easy to know because it'll have the words right side up. I think I checked real quick. Ah, there we go. Making sure those tabs are sitting flush. I felt it, and it didn't feel right. And then you don't want to force it down because you might bend one of those metal tabs, but you guys saw it fall into place there. So now I know I'm good to go for sure. And a lot of it is feel, guys. As you continue to mod and you continue to meddle with things, you know when things are just not sitting right, whether it be a mechanical or quartz watch. So very easy thing here. Just going to screw these puppies down. Again, I'm not screwing it all the way in until they're all halfway secured in or somewhat into that. So we want to get all four corners, holding the case in place, but I'm also manipulating the case back a little bit just to line it up. As you're holding it, you know, you may slip and the holes may not, you know, thread nicely through there. So you want to make sure that you just pivot and you just secure it down about halfway. And then once you get all 4 on there, then we'll really screw it down. And again, I don't over screw it in. You know, once I feel some resistance, I give it a little, you know, nudge a little bit more, but we're not, you know, forcing them all the way in and trying to like unthread the screws here. So that's pretty much it, guys, and here's what it looks like. Now, I'm keeping the plastic in front of it because I'm going to repackage this as like a brand new watch. I really want the person that I'm giving it to feel like they're opening a brand new watch, so I'm not going to remove that plastic for you guys to see like completely perfect, but that's the reason why. But you guys can see it's all negative blue. I checked the person's collection on their channel and they seem to like blue, so I figured an all blue display negative wise would be really cool, really stealth type of look on the black casing. And I'm really happy with the setup. I'm really happy with the finish. I mean, you guys saw it didn't take too much time. I think it was a full hour of recording that I did, but ultimately, you know, it's really like 20-30 minutes worth of work. I mean, if I wasn't recording, I'd probably get it down to completing the full mod in half an hour, but I wanted to show you guys what that looks like. Now we're going to put the band back on there. Spring bars 1, 2, 3, very easy. Put that there, get this in here. Keeping all the parts together, guys, that's important. You could lose these little pins and start fishing around, or lose those little screws and, you know, the little spring that we had inside, and that'll be a pain. So giving it a little bit of a tug, making sure that the functions work on all the buttons here, and we are good to go. Very happy with this mod completion, and we're going to repackage this, like I said, as if it is a brand new watch, which it is. I just meddled with it a little bit, but I hope you guys like this type of content. You know, along with collecting watches, I do modify watches here and there with mechanical and quartz watch, so I wanted to put some content out there so you guys can see exactly what that looks like. It makes the, you know, collecting, you know, type of journey very, very fun to do. And here you see me putting it onto the original holder. I even have like the 10-year warranty thing in the manual. So we're really repackaging this as if it's factory, because I want them to have the gratification of opening it up and really feeling like a brand new watch. So there you have it, guys. Negative display. Now, I've done a lot of different kind of mods. You could just use a color film on there on a positive display to change the color. You don't necessarily have to change the polarized film, which will be a lot less work because you don't have to open up the entire module. You're just putting it on the faceplate. And I could show you examples of that. Let me know, guys, in the comments if that's something that you'll be interested in seeing moving forward. I do enjoy doing these things, and I don't mind. I still have a lot of leftover material to do quite a few different Casio AE-1200, 1300, and 1600. Actually, I haven't done the 1600 yet, so let me know in the comments if you're interested to see another one of these, maybe just with the colored film because you feel more comfortable. But thank you guys for joining in. Remember, it all started with the watch, and I'll see you guys in the next one.